He crashed on hostile planet. During mating season, she claims him. Amber warning panels flickered across the cockpit as Lieutenant Marcus Vance struggled to stabilize his crippled reconnaissance vessel. The starling shuddered violently, spiraling down through the swirling indigo mists of Lyralis, a forbidden, perilous world infamous for its unpredictable, deadly climate. Marcus's distress call fizzled out amid a cascade of sparks. Bruised and breathless, he steered the ship toward a gap in the radiant, glowing forest canopy below. The crash was thunderous. Pain and blackness engulfed him. A shrill ringing filled Marcus's head as consciousness clawed its way back. He blinked through the haze, blood matting his brow, the cockpit reduced to a tangled carcass of sparking circuitry and warped metal. The pilot seat groaned beneath him, barely intact. Through the shattered viewport, alien light spilled in, strange, shifting blues and violets, far too vivid to be natural. The air itself felt charged, humming with a dangerous, otherworldly energy. His first breath tasted of metal and ozone, but instead of choking, he felt an odd warmth threading through his limbs, sharpening the edges of his pain. It stoked something primal, an awareness humming in his bones, urging him to move. Teeth gritted, Marcus clawed at the emergency kit, snatching out a med patch, shoving it against his ribs with a hiss. He found his sidearm, the cold weight familiar, comforting. The hull creaked ominously overhead. "Come on," he muttered, voice raw. "You're not dying in a tin can." He staggered out, boots scraping twisted alloy, and dropped to the forest floor. The world outside assaulted his senses. Towers of crystalline flora, their facets glowing from within, reached for the sky like frozen lightning. Vines hung in the air, alive and restless, writhing with purpose. Petals drifted on unseen currents, trailing sparks of light as they brushed his skin. The very ground pulsed underfoot, as if the planet breathed in rhythm with his heart. Marcus drew a shaky breath, forcing down panic. Every cell in his body tingled, alive, alert, and watchful. The atmosphere buzzed against his skin, simultaneously exhilarating and unsettling. He scanned the shifting shadows, training his weapon on the undergrowth, every sense straining for danger. A faint rustle, so deliberate it couldn't be wind, made him freeze. He pivoted, sidearms steady. A figure emerged from the shimmer, regal and inhumanly graceful. She stood taller than Marcus, her posture poised with the calm confidence of royalty. Her skin gleamed silver, softly radiant, and her large opalescent gray eyes reflected the fractured light of the forest. Behind her, fins reminiscent of wings arched elegantly from her back, each delicate membrane tracing patterns of light and shadow as she moved. Jill's slits fluttered in the sides of her neck, pulsing with the cadence of her breath. She wore robes that rippled with bioluminescent designs, flowing and alive, shifting in colors Marcus had no words for. Two silent sentinels flanked her, hulking, inscrutable figures, faces obscured behind mirrored helms. The princess stepped forward, every movement fluid, eyes never leaving his. Marcus braced, weapon up. "Stay back," he warned, voice trembling just enough to betray his exhaustion. Her lips parted in a curious, almost amused smile. "You are far from your currents, stranger," she said, her voice ringing clear, melodic, yet edged with authority. He swallowed hard, not daring to lower his guard. "Identify yourself," he barked, forcing his tone to steel. She circled him with measured steps, studying the torn insignia on his jacket, the wound at his temple, the stubborn set of his jaw. The sentinels watched, unmoving. Marcus's pulse thundered in his ears. "Your presence stirs the currents," she murmured, eyes flickering with intrigue. "No one comes to Lyralis by accident." "I didn't have a choice." Marcus risked a glance at the wreckage behind him. "Crash landing. My ship." He winced, the pain returning in sharp bursts. "Look, I just need help. I won't cause trouble." She tilted her head, considering. Your kind are dangerous. Many here would wish to study you, painfully. Her gaze softened, just a fraction. But I am Princess Solara, and I will not see you harmed. Not while you are under my watch. Marcus caught the glint of intelligence in her eyes, the flicker of something he couldn't name. Why help me? He asked, uncertain if he wanted to know the answer. A shadow crossed her features, regal, but burdened. Because I choose to. And because you interest me. She gestured, and the sentinels relaxed, though their hands lingered near their weapons. Your resilience is remarkable. With a fluid motion, Solara approached, raising her palm. Marcus tensed, but she moved with such deliberate calm, he found himself standing still, breath held. She pressed her hand gently to his chest. The contact was electric. A warmth surged from her touch, spreading through his body, settling deep in his core. A luminous sigil, intricate and organic, bloomed beneath her palm, shining softly through the torn fabric of his uniform. He gasped, caught between fear and wonder as the mark pulsed in time with his heartbeat. You are under my protection, she declared, voice low but resolute. The words carried a weight he couldn't deny. Marcus stared down at the glowing mark, the sensation of connection tangible, a bond woven between their lives in that instant. He looked up to find Solara watching him, her eyes filled with promise and warning both. He nodded, understanding that his fate was now entwined with hers. As the sentinels closed in behind him and the princess led him deeper into the luminous forest, the sigil on his chest throbbed in harmony with the shifting light of her garments, a sign of possession and a bond he felt deep within. Marcus awoke in a chamber of living walls, their surface pulsing with gentle light. His first awareness was the sensation of weightlessness, as though he floated in a womb of radiant color. He blinked, pushing up on a mattress that felt as alive as everything else, springy and warm, exhaling a faintly floral breath as he moved. Gone were his torn flight suit and blood-stiffened shirt. Instead, he wore flowing garments spun of something impossibly soft, cool as water, the fabric sliding over his skin with a whisper. The mark on his chest tingled faintly, almost as if in greeting. He reached to touch it, tracing the luminous design visible through the pale blue folds. The room itself seemed to sense his movement. The walls brightened in response, their colors rippling in tranquil waves. A gentle chime sounded, and a woman entered, her bearing measured, her skin a deep shade of lavender. Unlike Solara, her features were sharp, her eyes keen and knowing. She moved without haste, carrying a bowl filled with translucent stones that glimmered with internal light. Marcus's gaze flicked to the guards posted by the arched doorway, tall, impassive, armored in woven plates that glowed faintly. He sat up straighter, instincts prickling. The woman inclined her head in greeting. Lieutenant Marcus Vance, she said, her accent lilting. I am Advisor Nira. You have been treated for your injuries. Our healers found your biology surprisingly receptive, nearly harmonious with ours. Marcus exhaled, the tension easing from his shoulders. Thank you, he said, voice low. I suppose I owe you my life. A wry smile ghosted across Nira's lips. Perhaps, or perhaps it is your presence that will alter the course of ours. She set the bowl beside the bed, her hands moving with practiced grace. You must remain here until the claiming is formalized. The mark identifies you as Princess Solara's chosen. It is wise to let it be seen. He glanced again at the symbol aglow beneath his robe. Is that what this is? Some sort of ownership? Nira's expression softened. It is protection, Lieutenant, and a promise. You will be safe, so long as you remain within her light. Before Marcus could respond, the doorway shimmered with shifting colors, and Solara stepped in. She was transformed by ceremonial attire, robes that trailed behind her, awash with bioluminescent patterns that shifted like water across her silvery skin. Her hair was gathered back by delicate filaments that gleamed with every movement. She paused, taking in the scene, Marcus sitting upright, Nira standing by, the guards at silent attention. "Leave us," Solara commanded softly. Nira bowed and withdrew, the guards following. The chamber brightened, as if the living walls recognized their princess's presence. Marcus swallowed, suddenly aware of the intimacy in the room. "Your Highness," he began, but Solara cut him off with a look both regal and warm. "Marcus." She crossed the distance between them in a few gliding steps. "How do you feel?" He hesitated, searching for honesty. "Strange. Alive. I can't tell if it's the air here or whatever you did to me." Solara smiled, settling beside him on the bed. She reached for his hand, her touch feather light. "The claiming must be formalized before the council this evening," she said, her eyes never leaving his. "Already, there are those who contest my right. Chief Scholar Drela has petitioned to have you transferred to her custody. She believes you are a specimen, nothing more." Marcus's jaw tightened. "And you?" Her fingers traced the mark on his chest through the thin fabric, sending a jolt of sensation racing down his spine. "You are far more than that to me," she said softly. "Since your arrival, the world has shifted. You resonate with our world in ways we never expected. The forest responded to you. Our healers found your blood compatible with our own. It is unprecedented." He found himself leaning toward her, the air between them thickening with something electric. "That mark," he murmured. "I can feel it, even now." Solara's gaze darkened, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "It is a bond. Not merely a sign of possession, but of connection. It will grow, if you allow it." Marcus's heart hammered. "What happens if I refuse?" She hesitated, searching his face. "You will be alone here, vulnerable. I cannot protect you from the scholars, nor from the council, and I would rather not lose you." She lifted her hand to his cheek, her skin impossibly cool. "You do not have to fear me, Marcus. I promise you that." His defenses wavered. He closed his eyes for a moment, feeling her thumb brush along his cheekbone. "I want to trust you," he admitted, "but I barely understand where I am, or what any of this means." Solara's touch lingered. "Then let us discover it together." Their closeness drew the room tighter around them, the living walls pulsing in slow rhythm, matching the beat of his heart. Marcus inhaled the unfamiliar scent of her robes, the tang of mineral and flower, and something unnamably alien. He was about to speak, words rising unbidden, when the door flickered with cold, sterile light. A new figure swept into the room, her bearing severe, her gaze sharp as cut glass. Chief Scholar Drela wore the dark blue uniform of the scientific caste, her silver insignia gleaming. Her eyes darted from Solara's hand on Marcus's face to the mark visible through his robe, and her mouth curled in the faintest sneer. "Forgive the intrusion, Princess," Drela said, her tone anything but apologetic. "But time is pressing. The council grows restless and your guest will need to be presented soon." Solara straightened, hand dropping protectively to Marcus's shoulder. "He is not a guest," she replied coolly. "He is under my aegis, as the mark declares. You will address him with respect." Drela's lips thinned, but she pressed on. "Of course, Your Highness. Still, I hope that, once you are finished with your bond, you will permit the scholars to study it." She nodded toward Marcus, her gaze clinical. "His biology is of immense scientific interest. If his presence is to be more than a curiosity, let us ensure it benefits all of Lyralis." Marcus bristled at her words, but Solara's arm tightened around him. "He will not be your experiment," she said, her voice icy. "Not while I draw breath." Drela's eyes glittered. "We shall see what the council decides." With a curt bow, Drayla turned and left, the tension lingering like static in the air. Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "She hates me," he said, trying to sound wry, though his nerves were raw. Solara offered a small, sad smile. "She fears what you represent. Change always breeds resentment." The afternoon slipped by in a haze of ceremonial preparations. Marcus was bathed again by gentle attendants, his hair combed and bound with fine silver threads. The robe he wore now shimmered with geometric designs, echoing the sigil still glowing faintly on his skin. Solara met him at the chamber door, her expression solemn but determined. As the sun dipped below the luminous canopy, they made their way through halls carved from living crystal, escorted by guards in mirrored armor. Voices murmured in the shadows, some curious, some hostile. In the great council chamber, the air vibrated with expectation. Ancient figures sat in crescent tiers, their robes a cascade of colors. Drayla stood at the forefront, arms folded, her gaze fixed on Marcus with clinical intensity. Solara led Marcus to the center of the chamber. A crystalline bowl awaited, resting on a pedestal shot through with veins of light. An elder rose from her seat, her presence commanding silence. "Let the ritual of bond and protection commence," the elder intoned. Solara took a slender blade, slicing her fingertip. A single drop of shimmering blood fell into the bowl. She handed the blade to Marcus, her eyes steady. He hesitated only a heartbeat, then mirrored her gesture, letting a bead of his own blood join hers. The two droplets merged, swirling in the crystalline basin. The liquid flared with teal light, casting intricate patterns across the council's faces. "Compatibility is confirmed," the elder announced, her voice echoing. "The bond is sealed." A murmur swept the room. Some faces showed relief, others anger or calculation. Marcus felt the warmth of the sigil intensify, pulsing in harmony with Solara's presence beside him. The council bowed in acceptance, but the tension in the chamber was palpable. Uneasy alliances shifting, eyes calculating, the air thick with the promise of consequence. As Solara's hand found his, Marcus realized he had become much more than a mere curiosity. He was now a symbol, a catalyst, with stakes reaching far beyond his own fate. Days passed. Marcus spent his mornings repairing his beacon, afternoons exploring the palace gardens with Solara. Each sunrise found him hunched over the battered communicator salvaged from his wreck, tools scattered around him on a mosaic of living tiles. He muttered to himself in half-remembered code, hands working with methodical precision. The beacon's circuitry was fragile, pulsing with the same faint teal glow as the sigil beneath his skin. Every morning, he wondered if he should finish the repairs, if he truly wanted to call Earth, or if Lorealis was becoming home. By midday, Solara would appear at the threshold, her presence dispelling the solitude. She walked with the liquid grace of her people, the fins at her back catching stray shafts of sunlight, casting rainbows against the crystal columns. Marcus set aside the beacon, rising to join her in the palace gardens. Together, they wandered along winding paths where vines dripped with bioluminescent blooms and translucent butterflies flitted from petal to petal. They spoke in a blend of languages, hers lilting and melodic, his rough and clipped. He learned new words by the hour, their meaning enriched by her patient touch and warm laughter. The bond between them grew, unspoken, yet undeniable. Marcus found himself watching the subtle shifts in her expressions, the quirk of her lips when he made a joke, the way her pupils widened when she listened to his stories of Earth, her fascination with his memories of rain and music and simple human rituals. In return, Solara unveiled secrets of her world, the history etched in every vine, the legends sung by the wind. He marveled at her wisdom, her humor, her resilience. One golden afternoon, they wandered farther than usual, Solara leading him to a secluded glen where the flowers glowed with a soft blue radiance. As she reached for a blossom, her step faltered. The light of her skin, normally vibrant, dimmed to a pale shimmer. She swayed, pressing a hand to her brow. Marcus caught her before she fell, his arms steadying her. "Solara, are you all right?" She managed a shaky smile, but her voice trembled. "It is the fading. Many of us feel it. Our connection to the world is weakening." She tried to stand tall, to muster her usual composure, but he saw the truth in the set of her jaw and the shadow behind her eyes. He brushed a strand of her luminous hair from her cheek, concern overriding caution. "How long has this been happening?" "A cycle, perhaps two. It grows worse each day." Her fingers curled around his wrist, seeking strength. "But here with you it eases." For a moment, I remember how it felt to be whole. He frowned, his own heartbeat quickening with fear and something deeper. "There must be something we can do. Someone must have answers." A crisp voice interrupted them, slicing through the intimacy. "Perhaps I do." Chief Scholar Drayla strode into the glen, her expression as severe as ever. Behind her, a younger assistant, a slender male with iridescent tattoos along his arms, observed the scene, eyes narrowed with scientific hunger. Drayla's gaze landed on Solara, then shifted to Marcus. "We require a sample, Princess, for study. There are anomalies in both your conditions that cannot be ignored." Solara stiffened. "I will not submit myself or Marcus to your experiments, Drayla." The assistant stepped closer, hesitant but fascinated. "With respect, Highness, your glow strengthens in his presence. The readings are indisputable. He is stabilizing your energy field." Marcus exchanged a glance with Solara, realization dawning between them. His presence was not merely comforting, he was restorative. He felt a strange mix of awe and guilt, knowing he was both cure and cause, anchor and storm. Drayla's eyes glittered. "If we do not understand this bond, it may doom us all. Selfishness will not save Lyralis." Solara's voice rang out, low but resolute. "This is not selfishness. It is survival." She met Marcus's gaze, her fingers threading through his. "Come. We have nothing more to discuss here." They left Drayla and her assistant in the glen, the air thick with tension and secrets unspoken. That night, Marcus paced his chamber, mind racing. The palace felt quieter than usual, as though the walls themselves held their breath. The mark on his chest pulsed steadily, bright and insistent. He stared out at the city's living lights, thinking of all he stood to lose, all he'd found in this place so far from home. A soft knock sounded at his door. Before he could answer, Solara slipped inside, her robes shimmering with renewed vitality. Her eyes met his, bright with hope and something wilder. She crossed the room in silence, her presence a promise. "You stabilize what is failing in me," she said, voice trembling with both gratitude and longing. "When I am near you, the fading reverses. My strength returns. No one expected this, least of all me." He reached for her, brushing his thumb along her jaw. "I need you too, Solara, more than I can explain." She leaned into his touch, laughter catching in her throat. "Perhaps we should investigate this further. For the good of science, of course." Marcus grinned, heart pounding. "For the sake of knowledge, naturally." Their lips met, the kiss both strange and exhilarating, a mingling of energy and heat, of longing and belonging. The sigil on his chest glowed between them, weaving their heartbeats together. For a time, there were no more questions, no politics or fear, only the wonder of discovery, the thrill of connection. In the days that followed, their relationship blossomed. Solara's health improved, her cheeks radiant, her laughter echoing through the palace halls. Marcus found himself at the center of a quiet revolution. Servants whispered of hope returning, the city's gardens blooming with new vibrance. The council watched with wary eyes as Silera moved among her people, stronger and more beloved than before. Yet not all celebrated. Drela's scientists observed, notebooks filling with data and suspicion. Marcus kept repairing his beacon, though he no longer knew for whom he toiled. Everything changed the evening Nira summoned him to the medical chamber. "We have found something beneath your skin," the advisor said, her tone careful. He lay back as their instruments scanned his chest. There, a faint metallic glint beneath the collarbone, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Silera hovered at his side, worry flickering in her eyes. "What is it?" Nira answered, voice grim. "A hidden transmitter. It has been relaying signals since your arrival." The room spun. Memories stabbed through Marcus's mind, snatches of briefings, cold laboratories, the sharp bite of a needle. His mission, half remembered, infiltrate, assess, report. He'd been altered, sent here for a covert purpose, Earth's purpose, not his own. He sat up, panic rising. "I didn't know." "I swear I didn't know." Solara gripped his hand. "You are not your orders. Not anymore." Before they could process the truth, alarms blared, a shrill, pulsing sound that rattled the living walls. Lights shifted from tranquil blue to warning scarlet. An officer rushed in, breathless. "Earth's fleet has arrived. They demand the return of Marcus Vance as classified property." Marcus's world contracted. Solara drew herself to her full height, her glow fierce and unyielding. "They will not take you," she declared, voice carrying the promise of a queen and the ferocity of someone who had found something, someone, worth fighting for. Tensions mounted. The palace, once filled with gentle music and luminous flowers, now simmered with suspicion. Marcus stood in the ceremonial hall beneath a dome of living crystal, his pulse quickening as dignitaries filed in, their eyes flicking toward him with thinly veiled hostility. At the head of the table sat Varric, leader of the traditionalist faction, his heavy robes trailing like shadows. Silera entered, radiant but watchful, flanked by loyal guards. Drela lingered near the dais, her gaze calculating. The state banquet began with formal greetings, the air thick with unspoken challenge. Varric rose, his voice echoing off the crystalline walls. "This outsider," he announced, gesturing at Marcus, "is a threat to our sovereignty. His presence distorts our world. Our ancestors forbade entanglement with alien blood for a reason. We endanger all by ignoring their wisdom." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Marcus felt every eye upon him. Solara's jaw set in defiance. "Lieutenant Vance has brought healing, not harm. Our science confirms it. You would let our children fade just to appease the ghosts of the past?" Varric's mouth twisted. "He is a weapon sent from Earth. Even now their fleet circles above, demanding our submission. You mistake hope for delusion, Princess." Before Solara could reply, Drela stepped forward, voice cool and measured. "If I may, Princess, I request your presence in the laboratory for further testing. Our understanding remains incomplete. For the sake of our people, we must proceed without delay." Solara hesitated, searching Marcus's eyes. He nodded subtly, sensing the danger in Drela's urgency. "I'll come with you," he said, voice low. "That won't be necessary," Drela replied, her smile tight. "This is a matter for Lyralians alone." Marcus's instincts screamed a warning. He caught the eye of Talon, a loyal guard whose stoic presence had become a comfort. Talon nodded almost imperceptibly and slipped from the room. Minutes later, as the banquet disbanded, Marcus ducked into a side corridor, heart pounding. Talon met him at the foot of a spiraling staircase. "The princess is in the lower wing," Talon whispered. "She's not alone. Drela brought her aides, armed." "Take me," Marcus demanded, already moving. They navigated the labyrinthine halls, passing shimmering curtains and startled courtiers. Voices echoed ahead, Drayla's sharp, Silara's steadier, but strained. They burst into a glass-walled laboratory, finding Silara backed against a console, Drayla and two aides hemming her in. Drayla's hand hovered over a device, needle-like and humming with energy. "Step away from her!" Marcus shouted, leveling his sidearm. Drayla sneered. "We only seek answers for all our sakes." Silara's glare could have cut glass. "You overstep, Drayla. Stand down." The aides advanced. Marcus moved with trained precision, disarming the nearest with a swift blow and blocking the other's lunge. Drayla lunged for Silara, but Talon intercepted her, pinning her wrist to the wall. Silara pressed her sigil to Marcus's chest, drawing strength from the contact. The room pulsed with energy. Drayla, defeated, spat a final warning. "You play with forces you do not understand. If he fails us, so does Lyralis." Marcus ignored her, pulling Silara into his arms. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, her glow returning, albeit faintly. Talon secured the aides as Silara led Marcus from the lab, her hand trembling in his. Later, in the quiet of Silara's private chamber, she tended to Marcus's bruised knuckles, her touch gentle and lingering. Warm lamplight glinted off her silvery skin. "You risked everything for me," she whispered, eyes wide with gratitude and something softer. He caught her hand, bringing it to his lips. "I'd do it again," he said, voice barely more than a breath. "We'll face this together." She smiled, pressing her forehead to his, their breaths mingling, a gesture of trust deeper than words. For a moment, the world outside faded, leaving only the two of them and the steady thrum of their shared bond. The next morning, the council convened in the palace's central laboratory. Healer Liss, a serene woman with sea-green eyes, waited with a tray of vials and scanning stones. "We have studied your blood, Lieutenant Vance," Liss said, gesturing for Marcus to sit. "Your DNA interacts with our own in ways we could not predict. It stabilizes what is unstable in us. Yet the effect is incomplete." Drayla, her pride bruised but her curiosity undimmed, cut in. "A deeper connection is required. The sacred bonding ritual, the one we have never attempted with an off-worlder, may be our only hope." Marcus's heart hammered. Silara took his hand, her grip fierce and sure. "You need not do this if you are afraid." He shook his head, voice steady. "Earth changed me without my will. This time, I choose." That night they gathered in the sanctum. The room was dim, lit only by bioluminescent vines and the steady glow of the ritual bowl. Liss prepared the luminous elixir, pouring it into two slender cups. The liquid shimmered, shifting from blue to gold as it caught the light. Silara handed Marcus his cup, her fingers trembling as they brushed his. "Are you ready?" she whispered. He met her gaze, conviction and longing mingling in his eyes. "With you, always." They drank. The taste was electric, cool fire flooding his veins. Silara's eyes widened as the bond began, a rush of sensations, memories, and emotions interweaving. Marcus felt her pain and hope, her childhood laughter, and the aching loneliness of leadership. He offered his own memories in return. Earth's thunderstorms, the ache of exile, the solace of her touch. Their bodies glowed, the sigils on their chests blazing in synchrony. Hands entwined, they spoke the ancient words Liss recited, voices merging into one. The bond swept over them, minds and bodies merging, every barrier dissolving until there was no Marcus or Silara, only a union of will, soul, and purpose. When it ended, they lay tangled together on the sanctum floor, breathless and awash in wonder. Marcus traced the new mark on Silara's collarbone, his own glowing in answer. "You're different," she whispered, wonder and awe in her tone. "So are you," he replied, smiling through tears. Their trial was not yet over. The council requested a demonstration. In the healing hall, a Lyraelian child lay fading, her glow nearly extinguished. Silara knelt beside her, Marcus at her side. She pressed her palm to the girl's chest, and Marcus laid his hand atop Silara's. Their combined energy flowed into the child, golden and radiant. Slowly, the child's eyes fluttered open, her skin brightening, her breath deepening. A gasp rippled through the hall. Hope, fragile but real. Liz turned to the council, her voice steady. "It works! The bond can heal us." The news spread through the palace, through the city, throughout all of Lyralis. Hope bloomed anew where only fear had reigned, but the threat of Earth remained. That evening, a message blared from the council's comms. A cold, metallic voice filled the chamber. "Return Marcus Vance to our custody or face consequences. You have until dawn to comply." Marcus and Solara stood together before the council, hands clasped, their bond shining for all to see. The future was uncertain, but their resolve was absolute. The council chamber thrummed with tension as Earth's ships descended. The walls pulsed in time with the distant thunder of engines, their crystalline surface flickering between warning gold and defiant violet. Every seat was filled. Elders in elaborate robes, guards poised for action, scholars whispering with anxious eyes. Marcus stood in the center, his Lyraelian patterns aglow beneath ceremonial attire, the sigil on his chest now joined by intricate marks that shimmered in sync with Silara's presence. Silara, regal and resolute, stood at his side, her finned silhouette outlined in luminous blue. Advisor Nira, face pale but determined, addressed the assembly. "Earth's demand is explicit. Marcus Vance is to be returned to them immediately." Their admiral claims he is not a person, but engineered property, designed for infiltration, modified against his will. Nira's gaze met Marcus's, sorrow and pride mingling in her eyes. "But the bond you have formed with our princess has changed what you are. You are neither tool nor weapon now." A hush fell as the chamber's main comms link engaged. The ceiling's central crystal flared, and the stern visage of Admiral Rowan filled the air, broad-shouldered, silver-haired, eyes hard as flint. Behind him, the bridge of an Earth warship bustled with activity. "This is Admiral Rowan of the Terran Fleet," the voice boomed, echoing across the council hall. "Marcus Vance is Earth property. He is a classified asset and must be surrendered immediately. Failure to comply will be considered an act of aggression." Silara's hand found Marcus's, squeezing tight. He straightened, heart hammering, feeling the energy of their bond flowing into him. He stepped forward, voice steady and clear. "I am not your asset. I am not your weapon. I am Marcus Vance, and I choose to stay." Rowan's eyes narrowed. "You have been programmed for obedience, Lieutenant. You will comply." Marcus's lips curled into a defiant smile. "Your programming failed. My will is my own now, and my place is here." From the council's right, Drayla rose, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Admiral Rowan, you have misrepresented your actions. Our records, your own transmissions, prove this project was unauthorized, a violation of every interstellar accord. You altered a sentient being without consent and sent him to spy on our world. Your threat is illegal, and your claim is void." The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Elder Myron, long the voice of caution, stood with new resolve. "Earth's actions dishonor every treaty. We will not yield." Admiral Rowan's image glitched, voice rising. "This is your last warning." Solara stepped forward, her presence commanding. "We offer peace, not submission. Marcus is our chosen consort and ambassador. We invite you to open negotiations as equals, or face the consequences of isolation." For a moment, the threat of violence hung heavy in the air. Then the comms image dissolved, replaced by the council's collective gaze. Myron raised her staff, striking the floor. Let it be declared, Marcus Vance is henceforth ambassador and consort to Princess Solara. Earth's claims are rejected. We call for treaty, not conquest. Marcus felt the world tilt beneath his feet. Solara smiled, tears glinting at the corners of her eyes. Come, she whispered, leading him toward the raised Union platform at the chamber's heart. The crowd parted, anticipation crackling in the air. On the dais, a pedestal awaited, bearing 2 crystal goblets filled with the radiant elixir. The golden liquid shimmered with the energy of their bond, threads of light weaving between the cups. The entire assembly fell silent. Solara took her goblet, raising it high. In the eyes of Lyralis and the stars beyond, I choose Marcus, bonded not by fate, but by will. Marcus followed, lifting his own. I stand with Solara, by my choice, not by programming. We are united. Together they drank. The elixir sent fire and starlight through Marcus's veins, intensifying every sensation. Solara's nearness, the crowd's hope, the pulse of the world itself. As he set down his goblet, Solara turned to him, her robes glowing like sunrise. She pressed her forehead to his, their breaths mingling, the gesture intimate and public all at once. One spirit, one future, she whispered. He answered softly, their voices joined. We are united. Light exploded around them, a living corona that danced from the platform to the furthest gallery. The crowd erupted, cheers and song, elders weeping, children waving luminous vines. Marcus felt himself lifted, buoyed by something larger than hope or duty. He was no longer an outsider, nor a tool. He was partner, promise, symbol. Solara's hand found his, steady as a beacon. The council's cheers resounded, marking not just their union, but the birth of a new age, one forged from defiance, compassion, and the unstoppable force of 2 worlds choosing each other at last. Morning dawned over the treaty pavilion, living fabrics aglow with Lyrelian light. The gentle haze of dawn streamed through translucent banners, their surface alive with shifting blues and golds that danced in harmony with the rising sun. Marcus stood at the threshold, feeling the weight of ceremony settle around his shoulders. His regalia, tailored for this moment, blended the dignified lines of an Earth uniform with the flowing grace of Lyraelian tradition. Earth insignia gleamed on his breast, but the rest shimmered with the sigils of his new home. Beside him, Solara radiated calm authority, her silver skin and finned silhouette crowned by a circlet that pulsed softly with bioluminescent light. The council assembled in a crescent, elders robed in every color of the spectrum. Opposite, Earth's envoys, Admiral Rowan, now subdued and respectful, and a handful of advisors, took their seats. The air thrummed with tension and hope, both worlds suspended on the edge of something never before imagined. Elder Myron raised her staff, voice ringing out. We welcome Lieutenant Marcus Vance as Prince Consort of Lyralis, envoy of both worlds. Let this day mark a beginning, not just for peace, but for unity, discovery, and compassion. Marcus's heart thundered as he moved to the table at the center of the pavilion. Solara joined him, her hand slipping into his, grounding him. Rowan placed Earth's copy of the treaty before them, the official seal already pressed in crimson wax. The Lyrelian scroll glowed with living script, words unfurling and curling like vines across the page. Solara nodded once, and Marcus pressed his thumb to the Lyrelian document. His sigil flared in response, sending a wave of color rippling through the text. Solara did the same, their marks blending and binding. Across the table, Rowan and Myron exchanged glances, then signed their names. The final act fell to Marcus. He took up the ceremonial stylus, metal from Earth, tip of crystal from Lyralis, and signed both documents, his hand steady. The elder's voice resounded, solemn and joyful. Earth will honor Lyralian sovereignty and collaborate in research. Lyralis will aid Earth in peaceful endeavors, sharing knowledge and healing. Let our two worlds become partners in destiny. Marcus stepped forward, addressing both delegations. Today, I offer my DNA freely, not as a weapon or tool, but as a gift. Let it be used only for the benefit of both peoples, with full consent and respect. Solara's eyes shone with pride. We will walk this path together, she declared, her words echoing off the crystalline arches. The crowd, a gathering of dignitaries, citizens, and scholars, erupted in applause, their voices swelling into a song of hope. After the ceremony, as the sun dipped into a lavender dusk, Marcus and Solara slipped away from the bustle of celebration. The moonlit gardens awaited, a haven of quiet beauty, blooms glowing gently among twisting vines. Here, under the pale light of 3 moons, they let down the masks of royalty and diplomacy. Solara produced 2 simple bands, rings crafted from bioluminescent alloy, their core woven with a thread of earth-forged metal. She took Marcus's hand, her voice trembling with emotion. Here, beyond all politics, I give you my life, my heart, my future, whatever it may hold. Marcus reached for her, brushing a glowing strand of hair from her face. The gesture was tender, reverent. And I give you mine, he murmured, voice rough with feeling. No promises but this. Whatever comes, I stand with you. They exchanged the bands, the cool metal warming instantly to the pulse of their skin. As Solara slid the ring onto his finger, the sigils on their hands flared in perfect synchrony, casting their joined shadows across the moonlit path. For a long moment, they stood in silence, hearts beating as one. Weeks unfurled in gentle, exhilarating waves. The palace, once a place of caution and intrigue, now hummed with purpose. In the laboratories, Lyralian scientists and Earth advisors worked side by side, their discoveries fueled by the miracle of Marcus and Solara's bond. Each day, barriers fell, a shared language blossoming between researchers, laughter echoing in the halls where suspicion once reigned. Marcus sat with Solara in the observation gallery, watching as Lise and her Earth counterpart guided the first hybrid embryo through a complex sequence of energy infusions. Marcus's DNA, once a point of conflict, now became a bridge, a living solution that stabilized Lyralian genetics and offered hope to both worlds. When the embryo's pulse steadied and its form shimmered with both human and Lyralian traits, Solara's eyes filled with tears. Is it possible? She whispered, her hand trembling in his. He squeezed her fingers gently. It's real. We're building a future, one we choose, together. The news spread quickly. The first viable hybrid. The council called for a celebration in the Hall of Visions, where the citizens of both worlds gathered beneath the Great Dome. There, projected in living color, was the image of a healthy child, skin a luminous blend of silver and olive, eyes bright with curiosity, hair a cascade of dark and shimmering strands. The crowd gasped, then cheered. Myron raised her staff, voice rich with emotion. Let all see, there is hope. The future is not fear or division, but unity. Marcus turned to Solara, awe softening his features. We did this. Solara smiled through her tears, wonder shining in her eyes. You gave me hope when all I knew was fading. Now, we give it to everyone. The celebration swept through the city. Under the light of the 3 moons, streets filled with music and dancing. Children painted their faces with swirling sigils, both human and Lyralian. Lanterns drifted skyward, carrying silent wishes from every heart. That night, Marcus and Solara wandered through the palace gardens once more. The air hummed with the promise of spring, of new beginnings. As they paused beneath a flowering arch, Marcus drew her close, forehead resting against hers. "We started as survivors," he whispered, "but became so much more." Solara traced the line of his jaw, her voice tender. "Two hearts, two worlds, now forever changed." Above them the moons aligned, casting their joined shadows as a single shape onto the garden path. In that quiet, luminous moment, love and destiny twined together, the foundation for a new era of unity, discovery, and hope. A legacy born from survival and blossoming into the promise of forever. That's the end of the story. You can leave us a tip or become a channel member. This greatly helps our team improve the quality of our videos. You can send a tip using the Super Thanks button right below the video. We truly appreciate each and every one of you who has subscribed and supported us. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and write in the comments what you liked most about this story. Our team will be very grateful to you. You can find even more fascinating stories on our channel. See you in the next video.